Hi, this is David from Newton. Let's talk about how we can use a contingency table to find probability. Remember that a contingency table tells us the numbers in different segments of a certain population. In this example, we had the population of people who drive to work, walk to work, take public transit to work, versus the people who support a certain environmental bill and do not support a certain environmental bill. And these numbers give us each of those particular combinations, along with the totals in each column and the totals in each row. So for instance, we have 10 people do not support an environmental bill and take public transit to work. So let's talk about ways that we can use this table to find probability. So in this question, we're asked to find the probability that a person supports the environmental bill given that the person walks to work. So the key here is what we are given. We are given that the person walks to work. So what that means is that we only want to pay attention to the portion of the table that deals with people who walk to work. So here we find the column that says walk to work, and we just want to focus on that column for the rest of this problem. So here we've highlighted it. And now that we've focused on what we're given, that the person walks to work, we want to take a look and see what are we interested in the probability of. We want the probability that a person supports the environmental bill. So that's going to be this portion, the 30. 30 people support the environmental bill out of the total number of people in the column. So again, we're interested in people who support the environmental bill out of the total number of people who walk to work. So the final answer for this will be 30 out of 33. Again, the given information just tells us which column or row to focus on, and then we just have to decide which number to take out of the total. And that will be the probability that we're interested in this case, the probability that a person supported the environmental bill, which pointed us to the 30. Now, we're asked to find the probability that a person drives to work given that the person supports the environmental bill. So again, we have to focus on what we're given. We're given that the person supports the environmental bill. So we're going to want to focus on the support the environmental bill row, because we're given that the person supports the environmental bill. So now we've highlighted that row. And notice that we want the probability that a person drives to work. So we're going to look at the column corresponding to drives to work within the row corresponding to supporting the environmental bill. So 5 is the number of people who drive to work and support the environmental bill. We want to take that number out of the total number of people who support the environmental bill. So the probability that a person drives to work, given that the person supports the environmental bill, is going to be 5 out of 55. Now, we're asked to find the probability that a person takes public transit to work, given that the person does not support the environmental bill. So now, we're given that the person does not support the environmental bill. We want to focus on this row of the table. So that's highlighted. Now, within this table, we want to find the probability that a person takes public transit to work. So we want to look within this row and find the entry corresponding to public transit, which is the 10 here. So the 10 people who take public transit to work out of all the people who do not support the environmental bill, which is 33. So the probability that a person takes public transit to work, given that the person does not support the environmental bill, is going to be 10 out of 33.